We did it. The Austin era has finally begun. Hello, beautiful people. Welcome to another edition of WrestleMania Review Series. I'm Alex Catano. We got WrestleMania 14, the one that launched the Attitude Era to many people, but to me, it started with that awesome submission match. But man, this show was incredible. Now, it didn't have the star power that WCW got, but they worked with what they got and they worked a good story. They brought the right celebrity to help push this. And man, this entire show from top to bottom, I can watch it over and over. This is just a fantastic show. Definitely my favorite WrestleMania I've watched up to this point. And that's saying a lot. Because we had some rough ones to get to, but we finally get to a classic show. And man, I could watch this one over and over, but man, this one was a good one. Let's just start off. This really was the what really made the Attitude Era great. Like a lot of people sleep on like best WrestleManias. Like people don't put this one up there. This is for me a top five. Maybe a top 10. There's been a lot of great ones in the last couple of years. But we'll get to those. But anyways, this show, top to bottom, no bad match. We didn't do America the Beautiful. We didn't do it in last year's either. Uh, but we did have DX performing. So that was kudos. Granted, I think they did do America the Beautiful. I don't know if they did, but I know in the Peacock version they cut that part out if it did happen. But there was just a lot of stuff to enjoy from this show. And let's just kick it off. Let's just start talking about it. But oh, first of all, top notch commentary. Finally get Jim Ross and Jerry the King Lawler, the best duo in all of professional wrestling commentary wise. So that's another plus. But let's just start with the show. We kick it off with a tag team battle royal, which will determine the number one contender for the WWF Tag Team Championships. This was what it was. Definitely was the worst match of the show, but not really the fault of anybody. The winner, LOD 2000. I wish they just called them the Legion of Doom. Um, this was infamous for Sonny's look. Like I said, nobody had an entrance except LOD, which basically told you they were gonna win. And I was happy that LOD won. Legion of Doom, one of the greatest tag teams of all time. Only few tag teams can headline a big pay per view, and they did it in WCW. They never did it in the WWF, but I mean, there wasn't that much competition. Unless we ever did LOD versus Demolition, that could have closed the WrestleMania, honestly. But anyways, let's just move on to what's next. Again, solid battle royal. It was what it was. But for the light heavyweight championship, we have Takamiki Inoue versus Aguila. And this was a 5 minute match, but man, Takamiki Inoue was very underrated. They clearly liked him. They were willing to give him a match on the card. And I really enjoyed it for what it was. Solid 5-6 minutes. Really enjoyable stuff. They threw in their punches. I like that even though the lightweight division sucked in the Attitude Era, the cruiserweight or the lightweight division that cared enough, they put in effort when given that opportunity. They got the spotlight at WrestleMania 14. They're like, all right, let's give them what the best we can, and it's within 6 minutes. Granted, I wish they did more with the lightweight division, but if you want good cruiserweight action, go to WCW. Next match, we had Triple H versus Owen Hart for the European Championship. This was famous for China being handcuffed to Sergeant Slaughter, making sure it's an even match. Somehow, some way, China does get the advantage of helping Owen Hart lose by throwing some dust at him. And then Triple H takes advantage, hits a pedigree. But man, Triple H and Owen Hart have underrated chemistry. This was one of the best matches of the entire night. If I'm being honest, this was just so entertaining to watch. And it was very clear that we were going the direction of making Triple H the top guy. It does kind of suck for Owen Hart because this was clearly because of Bret Hart leaving following the Montreal Screwjob and how badly stuff ended there. But either way, this match you can't take away from what a great match they had here. Triple H and Owen Hart, two underrated talents in the ring. I really enjoyed this match. You gotta go watch it. I highly recommend it. Nobody really talks about this match. To me, this is the most underrated match of WrestleMania history, if you ask me. Next match, the artist formerly known as Goldust and Luna Vachon beating, or I should say, losing to Mark Merrill and Sable in a mixed tag team match. Now, in any other scenario, this would have been the worst match of the show. This probably was ideally like the worst wrestled match. But man, were the ladies entertaining. Luna Vachon, highly underrated, and Sable, we all know she was a megastar, one of the hottest girls in WWF history. Mark Merrill, unfortunately, got buried like years later, following their breakup. But the fact that this was heavily sold on Luna Vachon and Sable having their cat fight was awesome. Goldust's look very weird. It was really weird seeing him, like he was obviously giving tribute to the Great Muta, but I don't know. I kind of just wanted Goldust to just be Goldust. This kind of threw me off a lot. But anyways, Sable getting that hot tag, when she got the tag, everybody was just hyped. They were running for it. I just enjoyed the hell out of this, and yeah, I couldn't really get mad about this. This was just so fun to watch. I mean, it wasn't a technical masterpiece. You leave that to the boys, Goldust and Mark Merrill, the guys who really carried the wrestling. But if you wanted pure entertainment, Luna Vachon and Sable were that. So they kind of combined both of those styles, and I really, really heavily enjoyed this, and it made Sable into the star that she is today. If I'm being honest. Next, we had the Rock and Ken Shamrock for the Intercontinental Championship, battling it out. And if The Rock got DQ'd, then he would have lost the title to Ken Shamrock. But instead, the opposite happened. Ken Shamrock got himself DQ'd. And we all thought, like, oh, okay, maybe this is how Ken Shamrock gets the belt. Little did we know that The Rock was going to be the one that's going to be built up to higher potential. Like, I know Ken Shamrock at this time went from MMA to WWF. But The Rock, him being a member of the Anoa'i family and stuff like that, he had more charisma, more edge to him. So it was just kind of like, who do we put over? So they kind of did the best they could with what they got, and that was hard to watch. But like, I like Ken Shamrock suplexing the Nation of Domination. It was fine for what it was. The Rock cheating his way to still be the Intercontinental Champion. Even with that stipulation, Ken Shamrock was the one who ended up getting DQ'd, not the other way around. So it kind of worked for the best for The Rock, because it was like, who? Because if it was just a fair 1, 2, 3, it was like, it was hard, and that's coming from me because I hated count out and DQ finishes following these WrestleManias, but they did a smart job of doing it this way, and I can't really fault it for that. So kudos for The Rock and Ken Shamrock for thinking of something clever, or whoever wrote this. Good job. Next up, a tag team dumpster match for the WWF Tag Team Championships. The New Age Outlaws versus Mick Foley and Cactus Jack. Next up, the New Age Outlaws versus Cactus Jack and Chainsaw Charlie, aka Mick Foley and Terry Funk. It was a WWF Tag Team Championship match. It was a dumpster tag team match. I like this. Prior to this, Mick Foley and Terry Funk were feuding. Then at one point they both fall in a dumpster during a match. The New Age Outlaws throws them out, basically showing like, no, we run, DX runs town. So it was like, it was cool to see that Cactus Jack and Chainsaw Charlie putting their differences aside to work together and take these guys out. I believe these two were the ones who started the Royal Rumble in 1998. This was the year where the three faces of Foley entered the Rumble. But the story was pretty cool with Terry Funk and Mick Foley putting their differences aside, to take on the New Age Outlaws, the bigger threat. And with a show where it was building up DX, it was like, okay, some people had to lose, um, given that what happens at the end of the show. But I like this, and granted, they don't hold the tag team belts for long, but this was a pretty good, fun brawl. It was just not a typical tag team match. It was just four-man brawling all over the place, and then eventually it takes outside. There was a trash can out there. They locked them, and Cactus Jack and Chainsaw Charlie are your new tag team champions. So, kudos for that. I really enjoyed this match a lot. Such a fun match to watch. And that's another thing I want to say about this show. Every match is good, and up to this point, no match except this one, the dumpster match, has gone over 10 minutes. Actually, Owen Hart and Triple H was 11 minutes, but yeah, you don't feel a drag, that you feel like everything was given the time it was rightfully given to. But now we get on to the two matches that went over 15 minutes, and basically were the selling point of these shows. And we start off with my personal match of the night and one of my favorite Undertaker matches. And that, of course, is The Undertaker versus Kane. They've built up Kane for months on end. Paul Bearer talking about how his brother is coming, the one that you burned down. He debuts in the Hell in the Cell at Bad Blood 1997 when Shawn and Undertaker fight in the cell. Kane debuts, puts him in a tombstone. Shawn Michaels pins him. Paul Bearer trying to be the one that puts the Brothers of Destruction together, Undertaker and Kane. Kane just won't let it. It turns out it was just a trap for Paul Bearer to mess with Undertaker's head. They eventually burn Undertaker, but the story's not over. And this was a well-built story from October to March. This is perfect long-term booking. And I just enjoyed this match. I just saw even the stare down was cool. We had Pete Rose coming out announcing this match. Kane just comes in, doesn't even wait for an announcement. He beats up Pete Rose, tombstones him, and this becomes an ongoing threat, which was hilarious. But man, this match, I just loved it. It was just two big men. There was a part where Undertaker dives, Kane's reverses it and throws him into the Spanish announce table. That was so cool. This, I believe, debuted the breaking the Spanish announce table instead of the other one. Um, so that was awesome. They're throwing their moves. It took three tombstones to put Kane down. At one point, I actually thought Kane would have won. And had this been 1998, I would have thought Kane would have won. But Undertaker winning, obviously continuing the streak, even though we didn't know it was the streak yet. And then Kane, who was still being established, we still weren't sure who this character was. We still have time to build him up and make something out of this guy, and sure enough, we did. But now, on to the main event. For the WWF Championship, special ring enforcer, Iron Mike Tyson, who has aligned himself with DX on the corner of Shawn Michaels, as he fights Stone Cold Steve Austin. The story here was phenomenal, with Mike Tyson just showing up. This was after being suspended from boxing. He had nothing to do, so he goes to WWF, helps build this story up. They're talking about who's the badass of them all. Stone Cold and Mike Tyson start fighting. Mike Tyson doesn't want to deal with Stone Cold, so he aligns himself with DX, only to later find out on this show that it was a swerve all along. But man, for the match it was doing, I just want to say that Shawn Michaels is a great worker. If you guys know the story, Royal Rumble 1998, it was Undertaker versus Shawn Michaels in a casket match. A match where at the end of in some part of the show, Undertaker throws Shawn Michaels over the top rope. Shawn Michaels lands on top of the casket, breaking his back, and Shawn Michaels was basically injured and he would have retired, but they were willing. He was willing to have this match, but the plan was not for Shawn Michaels to lose here. He was supposed to go over, but thankfully they opened their eyes. They told Shawn Michaels like, no, dude, Austin 316. That promo made a star. We need to cap it off here. He's been on top of the world in 1997. We have potential of the next top star, and you know, they finally throw their eggs in the basket on Stone Cold Steve Austin. He became the champion. This was a well wrestled match, even for Shawn Michaels, who was injured. He didn't get to do the like stand up that he normally does because of his back. He did the best that he did with how hurt he was, and yet he carried it. And this was a very underrated wrestling match. Obviously, for me, not the match of the night. That would be Undertaker and Kane, but this was just really good, and I really enjoyed this match for what it was. But my favorite was, of course, the sweet chin music, reverse into the stunner. Mike Tyson runs in, 1, 2, 3, really quick count. Like, what is he doing? Turns out Mike Tyson was on Stone Cold's side all along. Shawn Michaels gets punched by Mike Tyson. It was a phenomenal moment. This began the Austin era. This is one of the greatest world title victories of all time. A phenomenal show, top to bottom. I cannot say anything bad about this show. It was so entertaining to watch, and this was uh, a good way to really kick off this era in professional wrestling. Really showed you that WCW was going to a direction low, an all time low, and I don't know. It was very clear that Vince was gonna go different directions and following his writers and doing something badass and cool. So I am very happy about this show. I was only gonna give it an A, but even talking about the show, even watching the show, I was just excited from top to bottom. So I am going to give this for the first time ever an A plus. The first ever A plus I've ever given to any show up to this point. I believe I gave WrestleMania 3 an A minus, but I haven't gone back and watched it. But correct me if I'm wrong, but this is definitely an A plus show. Nothing bad, nothing horrible. I can't really fault it. I enjoyed this from top to bottom. So, anyways, let's just go on to WrestleMania 15. I haven't heard good things about that show, but we'll see. Anyways, take care.